Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder. And we have, as always, an eclectic mix of news and whatever movies we happen to feel like reviewing that week.
Indeed, yes. If you are returning, welcome back. If you're new, as DB pointed out, we like to talk about movies or TV shows that we've been watching. Nice blend of current stuff or classics or older stuff. We occasionally we'll dip our toes into some newsworthy items like the box office or anything else that catches our attention. But of course, Monday we got some sad news. We talk about that a little briefly with the passing of James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I believe he was 93, so it's not entirely surprising.
Yeah, yeah. It's still, I
Oh,
mean, he
no.
was a legend of the screen, and yeah.
Uh, no, and everyone's just keeps bringing up Darth Vader, but the man had a powerhouse career. Field of
Yeah,
Dreams, Conan.
yeah.
Look,
He was in the Jack Ryan movies with Alec Baldwin and Harrison Ford. He had he had that really small role in The Sandlot.
oh yeah, wasn't he like was he the guy who owned the house with the big dog or
Yeah, yeah, and he was
okay,
blind. And
that's
he was an old baseball player, and he happened to be an old friend of Babe Ruth's. It's like,
oh
oh yeah,
that's right.
yeah. He's like, oh George, yeah.
Oof. His last two roles were Obi-Wan TV show and Coming to America, the sequel.
Mm, that's unfortunate, but yeah, he will be missed. But as DB said, he lived a long and fulfilling life, and we
Yep.
will always have his movies to remind us of him.
Yes, indeed. We should all be, and I've never heard anybody have anything bad to say about him.
No,
So
yeah,
uh, may we all go out that beloved.
yes, indeed. But yeah, so I guess we'll get to our other topics for tonight.
Yep. Let me just go ahead and pull this up. Now, what was that ding? Oh, of course it wasn't YouTube telling me that the stream had started. It prefers to wait until for the 40-minute mark to announce it.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, let's get into our box office talk, which of course Beetlejuice was at the top.
I'm not gonna lie. When I heard that they were doing a Beetlejuice sequel, I
Mm.
was convinced that was flop territory.
Same here. Yeah, because I mean, I know the first Beetlejuice movie has a kind of a loyal following, but I didn't think it would be over $100 million domestically loyal.
Yeah, 24,000 a theater average. Every theater owner going, "Oh, thank Christ."
Yeah.
Deadpool Wolverine is running out of steam. Still putting in numbers, but you know,
Yeah.
not quite making up payroll.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, August has been a very slow month in terms of the box office, which it usually does, which usually happens, with kids going back to school and everything.
Yeah, the unusual thing this August is that we had some relatively big hits. Like, I believe It Ends with Us opened up in August, like the first weekend after Deadpool and Wolverine
I think that's
came out
right.
at the
Yeah.
end of July.
Yeah.
So Deadpool and Wolverine basically got to own August, and then the July holdovers like Twisters and It Ends with Us, and yeah, Alien Romulus also debuted in August and actually made a good run of it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Beetlejuice a little bit. Neither of us have gone to see this movie because I'm actually in the same position as Andre over at Midnight's Edge. I didn't see the movie until much later. Uh,
Uh,
my introduction to the character was actually the animated series,
mm,
and I actually thought the movie was all right, but I kind of preferred the cartoon because I'm kind of an animation nut in general.
yeah. Well, this is a first, but we actually have a classic movie from the '80s that DB has seen that I have not.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember a couple of scenes, but it isn't super memorable. Okay, no, wait. People are gonna come at me for that. It has the same sort of stop motion style as The Nightmare Before Christmas. Like you can see this kind of sandworm back here.
Oh, yeah.
It's just kind of macabre and awkward, which is macabre and awkward is like if you had to sum up Bruce. I'm sorry,
Uh,
what's his last name again? Or what
Tim
director's name?
Burton. Yeah.
Tim Burton. I was thinking Bruce Tim because of the Batman connection. I knew that
Oh,
was wrong.
yeah, yeah.
Tim Burton. That would be like two words to sum up his career is sad and macabre.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Interestingly, so it's actually kind of underperforming its opening weekend. So we're getting a little bit of a sperm whale of sadness here, as
Yeah.
we call this particular gap.
Yeah.
Although at this point it's more like a crocodile of sadness because it hasn't quite gotten the huge hump head that makes it look like a sperm whale.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But on the other hand, since it does have such a devoted following, I would imagine that a lot of the people who wanted to see this were going to see it on the weekend.
Yeah.
Also, factor in that, like you said, school starting, so you're going to have, I think, just in general, less weekday traffic than you typically would.
Yeah. Yeah. And I honestly think this movie probably opened too soon. I think they probably should have waited till closer to Halloween to open it up.
Yeah, the only reason I can think of that they might have done it like this would be if they were worried about other competition. But given normal Halloween airtime competition, I can't imagine what they would have to be worried about in this sort of irreverent, goofy horror movie.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting decision, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Although, what's your Labor? Yeah, what didn't even come out for Labor Day. That was the week. That was 2 weeks ago. So,
Yeah.
um, you know what? We don't make the big executive bucks.
Yeah. That's
Also,
true.
we can also definitely see here that it's much more of a U.S. phenomena than international.
Mhm.
Like nearly four times the American box office compared to international haul.
Yeah. Which I guess that's not too surprising.
Nope. Now, how much did they make this thing for? 100
100
million
million.
dollar? Yeah, okay, they're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially because they make a bigger chunk of that money back from the U.S. ticket goers.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course they'll sell it for streaming and
Right.
they'll make
So,
some money off that. Yeah.
make some Blu-ray money because this is the type of movie that the devoted fans would do. Oh, and also you have the opportunity to bundle it with the first movie, re-release the cartoon on DVD, probably DVD because there's like for a '90s cartoon, there's no detail to pick up if you uh, ramp it up to Blu-ray.
Right. Yeah.
Sell a bunch of merch, so this is just like a capitalist's fantasy here.
Yeah. Although the reviews have been pretty mixed.
Yeah, yeah, I was noticing that too. What it really seems like, and this could be a problem for it, the people who held the movie in extremely high esteem and were big fans of it were kind of let down, while people who seem to be more casual fans or hadn't really seen a Beetlejuice movie before seem to be liking it more.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting little disparity there. Yeah. But yeah, you know, I have no opinion either way. I
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm not personally going to rush out and watch it. I don't know. Maybe we could consider watching the original for a classic review one of these weeks
yeah,
while it's still
mm,
somewhat relevant. By Warner Brothers, probably the original's on Max then, if it was, because I think the original was also a Warner Brothers movie, because it
yeah.
was kind of like the dry run for Batman coming out the next year,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
because same main actor, same director.
yeah. And if I recall correctly, that was very controversial because they were worried that the movie would be like all campy, like the '60s TV show, and so they had to hastily put a trailer together to say, no, 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 it's not going to be like that
No,
at
don't
all.
worry. Yeah, no. Also, from what I recall, this movie watching this movie, I could also see where somebody would go, "Oh God, is this going to be campy?"
Yeah.
Because this movie, I recall this movie being a bit absurd,
Yeah,
on purpose, but still absurd.
yeah, yeah. I've seen clips from it, and yeah, it does look silly. Yeah,
Yeah, but let's see. That was, of course, the big release for the week. Let's see if there was anything else that was particularly noteworthy.
we had
Besides Deadpool, Wolverine legging out, how many billions is it up to?
one point.
1.2,
Yeah, almost.
1.287.
Yeah,
Okay.
almost 1.3. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's doing fine.
yeah,
Reagan had a pretty good hold.
yeah,
I've heard, okay, so I've seen some people have negative things to say about it. I am
yeah,
going to be completely honest here. I feel like the people who have really negative things to say about it um, are probably just doing it because of politics. The same way that if they did a similar treatment for, well, let's see, Clinton, I think most people at this point would um, not would like expect a warts and all documentary.
yeah.
They did a
Obama.
Jimmy Carter movie.
Oh, yeah, Carter. Yeah, yeah,
It, like he had issues, but he was like, the man himself is it's hard not to hold him in high esteem given how he's treated his post presidency.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would say. Yeah, I would definitely say. Yeah, he's done his best work after he was president, not when he
Yeah,
was president.
but like a Jimmy Carter movie, if Ben Shapiro came out and had negative things to say about it, I would not take him seriously. Not that Ben Shapiro is like a political commentator. He does not understand media, and that's okay. But he needs to stop trying to pretend he understands media.
Yeah. Yes.
Is probably the best way I can put it.
Yes, and same goes for Matt Walsh.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I would agree. Yeah, that the negative reviews for that movie are probably politically motivated. I'm curious to see that movie.
Yeah. I
I
could,
mean,
if I had a free night, I could possibly see myself drifting over to the theater.
yeah, yeah,
It actually got a pretty wide release too, so
yeah,
2,700 theaters got you kind of spoiled for options.
yeah, yeah.
Then Alien Romulus continues to plug along. Um, yeah, about 300 million internationally,
It was a 90 million budget, 80
80
million.
million.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, probably going to be fine. Depends
yeah.
on how much they spent to advertise this thing. That one also seems to be kind of mixed reviews, especially from people who really know the franchise.
Yeah, yeah. I will admit I kind of stopped caring about the franchise after Aliens. Like,
So it's like the Terminator movies and World War II. Uh,
yeah, just stop caring.
there's two of them. The first and second are very different, but they fit together. We don't need a third.
Right? Yeah.
It's your, meanwhile, It Ends With Us is doing very nicely, and I'm not surprised because what else do you have for that sort of female-focused melodrama?
Yeah.
And considering this was a $25 million movie to make, that's yeah. Like there's a question mark of if Alien Romulus has gotten into the black yet. It Ends With Us as just pure money for Sony,
Oh
really.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
what's the Forge?
Oh, that's oh, it looks like a that's a faith-based movie, I think.
Oh yeah, that's what we're going to have to do. Weirdly put out by Sony.
They do that. I think they have a separate division that they put out like smaller independent movies.
I've what I've been noticing is that you're having like some real competition for the faith-based area.
I've seen that too. Yeah, which is pretty interesting. I don't know if that's a effect from Sound of Freedom or mm,
I imagine that couldn't hurt.
yeah.
And 20 million for a fairly niche movie like that is not bad at all after
No.
3 weeks,
Yeah.
especially because you know that that's not getting an $80 million budget.
No, no, it's not. No, it'd be lucky if it gets an eight-figure budget.
Yeah. Speaking of overblown budgets, Twisters never going to see the black because they decided to spend
200 million on it.
about 155
Oh,
million.
yeah.
which, yeah,
Yeah, they didn't need to spend that much money on that movie.
no, no.
Oh man.
Blink Twice, Amazon thriller movie. Not super interested.
Yeah,
How did Despicable Me 4 do? Did it? Okay, it looks like it's
man.
close to a billion.
Yeah,
Probably won't get there just because of diminishing returns.
yeah,
But Universal could be happy with that. Make up some of that Twister's money.
yeah. No. Oh God, The Crow. Ooh.
Yeah, Crow's been out for 3 weeks. I don't think we talked box office the weeks that that the Crow came out because we just didn't care. And
I
third
think.
week,
Yeah, I think we did the first week maybe.
yeah, third week, $130,000.
Ooh,
Thousand.
thousand. Only in less than 300 theaters.
Yeah.
God.
This thing is being buried fast. From the
Yeah.
sounds of it, everybody decided to just bury this thing, and everybody had so little investment in it that everybody's going to take a little bit of a hit, but nobody's going to lose their shirts.
Oh well, that's small miracles, I guess. Oh,
Yeah,
God, who thought it was a good idea to make that movie?
I don't know. I just don't know. Let's see here. So, where's Inside Out 2? There's Inside Out 2.
There's this.
That's going to be the biggest movie of the year unless Mufasa really surprises us all.
I don't think it will. I
No,
think.
I don't either. But
Yeah.
almost $1.7 billion. Yeah. So they're now in the position, I think, where they've now gotten mixed signals because I think that if this had been an underperformer too, uh, Pixar would have definitely gotten folded into Disney Animation proper
Hmm.
after the string of duds and near misses. Um,
Yes.
like I would consider probably their best movie post COVID that I've seen was probably Elemental, and even that was like a C movie.
Yeah. C minus.
Yeah, C minus D plus somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Like not hateful, but just like a little dull and not well thought through.
Yeah.
Um, but this is definitely going to make the case for Pixar to continue to be a going concern for them.
Yeah. 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 And if I recall correctly, I don't think there's an Avatar movie coming out this year. Is there?
No, it's going to be next year.
Next year. Okay. I think it was supposed to be one coming out this year, but the strikes pushed it back.
That would make sense. Yeah. So I guess we got Joker, A Folly Adieu.
Uh,
I refuse to believe that that's going to do anything.
I don't know. I don't know if it will do as well as the first one, but I think it'll do reasonable.
We'll see. What I've heard is that like a lot of what drove the movie the first time, I think there was partially oh, don't go see the dangerous movie, which
Yeah.
how do you convince people to go see the dangerous movie? Tell them it's dangerous and tell them to stay away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, and I hadn't realized this because I wasn't deeply involved in DC circles, a lot of people assumed it was going to be the origin story for either the Ledger Joker or whatever Joker they were going to cook up next for whatever next Batman they had.
Oh yeah.
So the fact that it doesn't connect to anything um, is not encouraging. For
Yeah. I
people.
mean, Bruce Wayne's still a kid. Yeah.
It also kind of sounds like the second movie, from what I've heard, is like a court drama about the events of the first movie.
Oh no. Oh no, no, no,
We'll
no,
see if
no.
that what I heard was right, but that would not be encouraging if it was.
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy.
But I would say that based on this, I think that we're likely to start seeing even more um, nostalgia movies because
Yeah.
you know Top Gun Maverick. Um, let's see, what else have we had that's been a well, of course, Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah.
Uh, it seems like they're deciding that rather than doing a full reboot, like, wait, is so and so still alive? Bring him in.
Yeah. Wesley Snipes' Old Man Blade. Let's do it.
Yes. You,
yeah, and
did
apparently
did
they're
didn't
what's it?
did that other Blade movie just officially fall through? Like the actor
Yeah,
officially stepped away.
yeah, that's been canceled. Yeah,
It's just so hilarious that, like, okay, you couldn't make the movie work out where the plot is a vampire shows up and kills other vampires and he is cool.
yeah,
Like that, it's not that complicated. You just have to come up with a unique type of vampire.
yeah,
Actually, no, wait. You know what? You don't have to come up with a unique type of vampire. Just make it like an old pasty white guy uh, fighting this young, cool black vampire. There,
yeah.
make the old pasty white vampire really heinous. Give the good vampire a love interest who he can't be with because he has to go keep being a badass vampire. And at the end, they just separate. The end.
Yeah, pretty much.
I've written you a rough outline that would probably make you $300 million at least.
Yeah.
But
But will they do it? Probably not.
no, depends on if they can afford Wesley Snipes or not.
I don't know. Wesley Snipes is kind of,
Uh,
he needs
I
the money.
it would not surprise me if Disney tried to lowball him because he needed the money.
Yeah, probably. Well, speaking of nostalgia sequels, I mean, I saw the other day the Goonies is apparently getting a sequel.
Oh God, that's right.
Yeah,
Uh,
Spielberg's gonna direct it. They're gonna bring back all the kids from the first movie as adults. So
uh, no, no.
yeah, no, no,
At least they're bringing back the original cast. I guess that's something.
yeah,
But no. All right. Speaking of the fallout of poor decisions,
yes,
so the reason we talk about the box office, besides finding it interesting, like it's like the most what do I call it? It's most transparent industry because you could just directly see how much money something made. Where with things like video games, you have to go to Steam charts and then extrapolate to other platforms from there.
yeah,
Uh, so the last couple of weeks, we talked a little bit about the collapse of the game Concord, Sony's new hero shooter,
hmm
which is estimated to have lost the studio somewhere between $100 million and $200 million plus 8 years of work.
Eesh.
And then they came out with a new game. I believe it's called Astrobot. I'm an Xbox guy, so
Yeah, yeah,
Astrobot, yeah.
Astro.
And people thought it was cute and fun. Let me get a picture here because it basically looks like Wally and Eve had a robot baby.
Oh, it does. Yeah. God, that looks like something. That looks like something from Japan. Like
It is actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like one of those little cute robots that do.
Oh,
Like.
like an Aibo or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Funny thing about this game, it was developed by 60 people who were like the remnants of the shut down Japan studios that Sony had.
Yeah. Oh boy.
It's just a simple, fun, cute game. And so it's like, okay, so Sony managed to get back some goodwill. Everyone was happy about this game. They were just done talking about Concord. Everything was fine. Then they announced the PlayStation 5 Pro.
Ugh. Yeah.
So console hardware refreshes have really been a thing since the NES era, at least, if not before. Because there's always been multiple versions of the different consoles. It's partially because as technology improves, you can make the same chip smaller for cheaper. So
Yeah.
you want to take advantage of that to make a smaller footprint for the same thing. Like I have it has a little bit of dust on it, but I have my PlayStation 2 Slim here, which is like the last model they made, way smaller than the original PlayStation 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like this thing is like smaller than some iPads, at least on
Here,
this dimension.
let me make you put. Hold on, back. I'm making. make it big. And yeah, yeah, that's very small. Yeah,
Yeah, like it's teensy.
yeah.
All right, we can zoom back out again.
All right. Okay, there we go.
But like NES, they brought in the top loader version. Xbox 360 had a bunch of versions.
Hmm.
Everybody does versions of consoles. What was interesting last generation was they introduced the idea of the Pro console, where rather than maybe adding a new feature, you would have a actual substantial increase in horsepower under the hood.
Yeah, yeah,
And this was like the premium option. Like they weren't Xbox and Sony did this. They weren't going to force you to buy this new console just to play new games, but games with the hardware would have better load times, better graphics, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah.
Uh, this had been rumored for a bit that Sony was coming out with one. There have not really been any rumors of an Xbox Series X Pro, which is interesting because it I mean they've clearly lost this generation, so I think they probably figure that they're better off just keeping the same hardware, and your premium option, just play the Xbox Studio games on PC.
Mm, yeah.
Which brings us to the price of this bad boy, the PlayStation 5 Pro, which, Daniel, go ahead and tell them the three features that it offers.
Okay. So the features are upgraded GPU. They're upgrading the GPU so that it has 67% more compute units than the current PS5, 28% faster memory, and overall 45% faster rendering for gameplay. It has advanced ray tracing. They've added more powerful ray tracing that provides dynamic reflection and refraction of light. This allows for rays to cast at double or at times triple the speeds of a current PS5. And AI-driven upscaling, which is uses a machine learning-based technology to provide super sharp image clarity by adding an extraordinary amount of detail.
Yeah, so funny thing about those, as a video I was watching pointed out, so the PlayStation 5, or excuse me, the first two features of the PlayStation 5 Pro are actually the same feature because they're both brought on by the improved graphics card.
Ooh,
And then the that AI library you were talking about, it's an acronym is PSSR. I've already heard people refer to it as Pisser, and now I can't unsee that when I see it
yeah.
referred to.
Ooh.
Uh, the thing is, like, this thing costs $200 more than a standard PS5,
Mm,
and it does. And they, in fact, nickel and dimed you because it doesn't come with the vertical stand. That's an add-on,
uh,
and you would expect the Pro version to have a disk drive. But you can pay $80 for an add-on USB disk drive.
so yeah, and at that point you're over $800.
And it's even worse for the international market. The rough estimates I saw places, so €799, which works out to 880 for that base, no disk drive, no stand package.
Mm,
Um, in Japan, it's the equivalent of $843, but in the UK, it's apparently $933.
yeesh.
So I think that what I think what we're seeing here is the folly of Sony and Microsoft's game decision priorities or game development priorities. And here's what I mean by that. Uh, so the classic video game console, the whole idea is that you start at a price point, you steadily decrease the cost of the console over the lifespan of the console because you get economies of scale, and what you're really doing is you're willing to take a small loss or a break even on the console because it's the vehicle for selling more games.
Mm.
The thing is, what games for
Yeah.
this generation? Like, a lot of the first party Xbox and Sony games have been kind of moderate to severe disasters. Like Xbox's Redfall barely worked. It's in some sort of playable state now, but they've abandoned it. And the last patch basically removed all the online components because they just knew it was an unmitigated disaster.
Oof.
Meanwhile, like Halo Infinite, I will say, like I played some of that. I'm just allergic. I'm just deeply allergic to open world 3D games. I just am.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. Yeah,
So I enjoyed like the opening part of it, but once it got into the larger choose your own missions in your own order Ubisoft style of open world, I was just lost interest.
yeah,
PlayStation 5, of course, had Concord, but there's just been a lot of and also Forspoken as a non-first party exclusive,
mm,
which that was a cringe fest.
yeah,
In fact, we've had a lot of games we could describe as cringe fest bombs the last couple of years. We've even talked about some of them, like the Watch Dogs and
yeah.
not Watchdog, no, not Watch Dogs.
Uh, uh, oh, what was that? What was it
Saints
again?
Row. Saints Row.
Saints Row. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So what I think we're seeing here is that because so many of the games have been huge bombs, they don't have the wherewithal to eat the cost of these consoles as much.
yeah,
Like you'll see Xboxes and PS5s on sale certainly, but there hasn't been like any permanent price drops like we've seen previously.
yeah. And hey Ninja, good to see you. He's playing through Marvel versus Capcom.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, because usually when I mean, I remember in the olden days when a new console would come out, the price point was usually like, $300, and then after about 6 to 9 months, or even a year, they'd cut it in half to 150.
Right, or like like maybe like that would be like after a year or so, but in the meantime they would come out with bundles that had more games included
Right. Yeah.
or extra controllers or things, just to try to get that in your hands because they were trying to sell you more software.
Hmm.
But in our stupid world of live service games, where people keep launching bomb live service games, but also where where you know if you only buy the PS5 to play Fortnite, they
Yeah.
aren't making a lot of money on that if you aren't buying constant cosmetics and things like that.
Yeah. 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 Same with like games like Destiny and um or even the Call of Duty franchise.
Right. Like you sell one game, you get a chunk of the cosmetics if they buy it through your platform, but that's really it. So
Yeah.
I think because they can't count on you having to buy X number of games to stay entertained in a year. I think this is where we're seeing the hardware have to come up in cost. The problem is once you hit $700, effectively 800 plus tax, if you want the full features of the console,
Yeah.
we're now into wait, couldn't you just go buy yourself a gaming PC or a gaming laptop?
Yeah.
Like get yourself a moderate gaming laptop, use the HDMI plug to plug it into a monitor, and then if you want to, you can get yourself a DualShock PlayStation controller and plug and connect it with your PC.
Yeah.
Then play on Steam or Game Pass or whatnot.
Right. Yeah.
So you're
Mm.
kind of encroaching on the PC price point without the benefits of being a PC. I think this is a unforced error on their part.
Yeah. Yeah. It's certainly going to come back to bite them.
Here's the thing, though, is I think this thing is actually going to sell at least decently well at first.
Hmm.
Because I was also thinking about it. I said to myself, if I were in the market for a PS5, um, they just did a presentation saying, "Oh yeah, we want to make sure that you don't have to choose between performance and graphics. We want you to be able to have both." I'm going to say to myself, if I'm going to buy a PS5 anyway, and I have more money than I know what to do with, and there aren't a lot of first party games to buy, maybe I just get the best PS5 I can get so that whatever games I get look good.
Yeah.
but it was very telling that there weren't actually any new games that were announced along with the PS5 Pro,
Yeah.
like no Death Stranding 2 or whatnot.
Yeah, or heck, even like, oh, coming in 2026, Final Fantasy 7 whatever.
Part 3, yeah,
For
yeah,
3, yeah.
exactly. Like, and that'll support that game. No, they had to go. Here's all the PS4 games that will support this new graphics thing,
Yeah.
like Last of Us 2.
Yeah. Mm.
So I think that what we're kind of seeing here is a mix of pandemic crunch, monetary policy crunch, inflation crunch, and just bad development decisions. Because if they'd been coming out with bite-sized games the whole way along, I think we could have maybe seen this for $100 less,
Yeah. Well,
and maybe the base consoles themselves would have come down in price.
yeah. Yeah. Well,
Uh,
maybe there's still time for that.
Maybe we'll see. It depends on how much the what people call the Sony ponies pony up for this.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason we cover this when we're not usually a gaming channel is just that where's entertainment going? The answer is this indicates that the gravy train is done.
Yes. Yeah.
The easy money has dried up. Prepare to pay through the nose for the bad decisions of executives across the world.
Indeed. Yeah. Man.
Um, well, I think that we've said everything we want to say about this.
Yeah.
Let's get to some actual movies, everyone.
Yes. Yes.
So,
First up is
speaking of the consequences of bad decisions,
yes.
Hayao Miyazaki's fifth last movie, and I only joke partially.
Yes, yes, he keeps retiring and then unretiring. He's like Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I think what's happening is that he's how old is he at this point? 70 something.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
Miyazaki age. He is 83. Okay, I
Oh,
underestimated.
okay. Wow.
Huh, he was born in 1941. Like I
Mm.
guess he could remember a little bit of the war,
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah.
but probably just grew up in like the post-war period, which was not too happy as we saw in Godzilla -1.
No, it wasn't. Yeah. Yeah, it took him a while to bounce back from that.
But what I suspect keeps happening is he says, "Okay, this is my last movie." I mean, he's probably going, "Well, I'm an old man. Will I have it in me to do another movie?" And then he, stops for a bit, then comes up with another movie idea, and off we go into onto another last movie.
Yeah. A bit like one of his proteges, Hideki Anno, who, of course, is the creator of Evangelion. He
Hmm.
kind of did that for a little while, where he's like, "No, I'm done with Evangelion," and then he goes back to Evangelion, and
Movies
then
later.
yeah,
But now to bring up this actual movie here.
yes,
So Boy and the Heron is, I would say, do you ever get to the point with a creator where you think you've seen too many of their things?
yes,
And it's like you can kind of see a lot of the tropes and style and decisions over and over again.
yeah, yeah,
That's kind of how I feel about The Boy and the Heron.
mm. Yeah. I can kind of see that. Yeah,
Um, so he definitely isn't breaking any new territory for himself because, and let me just pull up the Wikipedia page so I have some character names in front of me because
oh yeah,
let's see here. That's right, Mahito. How could I forget the main character Mahito's name, considering that I kept thinking like the alcoholic beverage.
yeah,
But so Mahito is a young boy growing up in Japan during the war, and during a firebombing, his mother is unfortunately killed in a very horrific way.
mm.
Because like with the firebombing, like being at ground zero of the firebombing was probably a more painful and slow death than being at ground zero for um, Fat
uh,
Man.
yeah, 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 yeah. Being ground zero for that, yeah, you're not feeling it. It's just you're there and
Exactly.
then you're not. Yeah,
Yeah. But uh, he ends up being kind of it's now I wasn't quite clear. Is the bulk of this movie taking place in um, in the during the war, or is it post-war?
um,
I
that's
asked.
yeah,
I wasn't entirely clear because I kind of felt like it could have been post-war because of things seem to be more peaceful, but also um, so, okay. So sidebar:
yeah,
Miyazaki has a love of drawing elaborate vehicles that can be quite how to put it fanciful.
yeah,
Uh, so I saw these bizarre looking tanks in the one scene where they had like the military column going down the street. And I
yeah,
at first thought that that was an American military column. It's like, oh, okay, this is occupation time.
yeah,
But what is that stupid tank he drew? No one would ever make a tank like that. And then the thought occurred to me: what if that's a Japanese military column and it's a Japanese tank?
yeah,
And the silly tank was in fact an actual Japanese model when I looked it up.
yeah. Well, according to the Wikipedia page, it is during the war. So
Okay, and that makes sense later because you see like what I suspect were a bunch of domes for Mitsubishi Zero fighter craft that were being kept in a building up in the mountains.
yeah,
So okay, so thank you for confirming. But
yeah,
basically, his mom dies.
hmm
He's horrified, and his dad proceeds to marry his mother's nearly identical sister,
yeah,
impregnates her, and then introduces them.
yeah.
Because it didn't it kind of feel like they had never met each other before.
Uh, she said they had met before, but it was when he was very young, so he probably doesn't remember her.
Right. Like it's very clear that it's like a strained relationship, which is one
Yeah,
of the key points of the movie.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, so his father, yeah, Maito's father, has a factory that he's just opened up in the town where they're living. So now he's living in this estate, kind of like farm area, with his stepmom slash aunt, um, and he's not happy. Clearly, throughout the movie, he has a
No,
very stern look on his face.
no. He actually kind of reminds me a bit of Furiosa from our movie last week, in the sense that he's so closed off and he has nobody to really talk to. That while you can see his okay, so by dint of being an animated character, he is more expressive than Anya Taylor Joy was as Furiosa, or the child actress was as
Yeah,
young Furiosa. But still, I felt a similar sort of disconnect because it's like there was visual storytelling, but I also like would have liked him to have somebody to open up to more.
yeah,
That,
yeah,
that
and
this is not
and
like an objective flaw. This is just things I like in movies.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so then he starts kind of exploring the area, and he finds this tower where these little old grannies who are like nightmare fuel looking characters
Yeah,
are.
I am convinced that they were like XPs of the Seven Dwarves from the Disney movie, because like
Mhm.
there was one with the little glasses like Doc, there was one with the huge nose like it's like Grumpy who had the huge nose.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And like the characters didn't really map at all, but I think they were all supposed to be vaguely like a Seven Dwarf.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but yeah, they tell him he needs to stay away from the tower, and then his stepmom slash aunt tells him the same, and then he starts going to school, um, and he's getting bullied at school, and as he's walking home, for some reason he bashes his head in with a stone.
Well, what happens is he gets in a fight at the school, and then on the way home, he bashes his own head with a stone, giving him this scar we see here.
Yeah.
Um, and what I think was going on was he was just he just didn't feel like he fit in. He was just very troubled, and so he just wanted the attention. He wanted to be taken out of the school. Maybe he was just trying to get his dad to pay attention to him.
Yeah. Okay.
That, that's my best reading of what he was after.
Oh, yeah. That's a fairly common thing. Yeah, for with kids to do. It's yeah, little self harm. Yeah.
So he wasn't in too good a shape. Now during this, he keeps seeing this gray heron out in the lake near the house, and it keeps doing unsettling things like having teeth.
Yeah. And telling him that his mother is alive and is waiting for him.
Yep. So eventually, his aunt wanders out into the woods. And at first, I thought it was like a ghostly version of the aunt because the robe she was wearing is one I often see in Japanese media as associated with ghosts.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I
no,
thought that
it
too.
was actually her.
Yeah.
And so he and one of the little old ladies ends up in what I'm going to affectionately call a fantasy nonsense world made up of whatever Hayao Miyazaki felt like drawing at the time. Is that a fair assessment of what we were dealing with there?
Yes, I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah, I was like a Towley in South Park. I have no idea what's going on.
And yeah, so like there's there's definitely some. I feel like there might be some visual references that I don't get. I think that in this movie he just wanted to draw birds over and over again
Mhm.
because there are just birds all over the place. There's the titular blue heron. There's a flock of pelicans who try to who would have been eating him if he didn't have a piece of the heron's feather at the time. By
Yeah,
the way, the heron was threatening him, and so he ends up shooting the heron through the nose with an arrow, which is why it has that cork there.
yeah,
And I'm going to admit, what the heron actually is, I cannot overstate how let down I was by what the heron actually was.
yeah, yeah,
Because what the heron actually is, it's a little bald gnome man with a huge nose. Like it occasionally appears from beneath the. Let me just get a picture here. It occasionally appears from. Come on, copy image link. Come on. Like this is from like the book version of it, but like you can see like an eye and mouth appear from inside of its mouth, or eye and huge nose appear from inside of its mouth. But it's just
it's sort of like when in the live action Ninja Turtles movie, when Donatello is laughing and his mouth opens really wide and you can see the actor who's in suit. You can see his face.
oh, I
It's a bit
didn't know
like
that.
that.
Okay, found a picture of it. That on the right, there's the heron.
Yeah.
My day is ruined and my disappointment cannot be measured
Yeah.
because I thought the heron was going to be I actually had thought initially, and this was based on me misremembering reviews at the time. I thought the heron was his mother's spirit or something.
Yeah, that I thought that's where they were going with it too, but no.
Nope, it's just a funny little gnome man.
Yeah, and they don't even like each other when you watch the movie. Like they're
No,
constantly bickering and arguing. Like,
to be fair, who does Mahito actually like besides his mother? I guess he kind of
yeah,
likes. They run into a strong fisherwoman character who has like a long scene where there's
mhm,
like marshmallow ghosts that go back into the world and become people, and then the
yeah,
pelicans come in to try to eat them, and it's weird.
yeah. It's weird. Yeah.
But the pelicans are driven off by a girl with fire magic.
Hmm.
Now, at this point, I think it would be hard for us to discuss much of the plot of the movie without going into spoilers. So maybe we should uh, give a quick summary of our non-spoiler thoughts.
Okay.
Because
Um,
this is your chance. If this movie sounds interesting, it is a Miyazaki movie.
mhm. Yes, take that into consideration.
Uh,
It's
which sounds like a very Yogi Berra movie review, but what I mean is that he has a particular style. I would not recommend this as somebody's first Miyazaki movie because there's better,
mm,
but there's also worse.
yeah. Wasn't Princess Mononoke one of his?
Yeah, that's probably the one I would recommend to most people as their first. If you want something more childish, there's My Neighbor Totoro, which I haven't ever seen, but I've been assured is delightful.
Yeah.
Uh, you also could do my personal favorite Miyazaki movie is his Lupin the Third movie, The Castle of Cagliostro.
Mm, all right.
Um, but this is a totally fine movie. You're basically there for child trauma and cool visuals, and there are some cool visuals here.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, it's fine. Like it's beautifully animated. It's kind of got a, you know, I the world. I wish the world building had been a little more uh made more sense or explained a little bit better. But I mean, I liked the whole dynamic with, the with the boy, and then him, trying to find his aunt, and then trying to
Mhm.
find his, and then meeting his mom as when she was a kid. Oh shit!
Yeah. Well, let's
I
get right
just
into this.
spoiled it, didn't I?
Let's get right into the spoiler section.
All
So
right.
um,
Oops.
that's okay because I think that they reveal what she is pretty quick once you
Yeah,
actually get a good look at her.
yeah, yeah.
So the girl with the fire powers is in fact his mother as a child, who inhabits this world. Now, I will admit, this world is strange. This is a strange story
Yeah,
with
it is.
strange magical rules uh, that I don't entirely understand. But basically, what happened is that I think at the tail end of the Meiji era, Mahito's great uncle uh, he found this rock that had fallen from space,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
said, "Oh, this rock is cool. I'm going to build a tower around it." And for some reason, this tower gave him the ability to create his own world because why not?
Yes. Yeah.
And so he made this own little pocket world. He owns it. It's falling apart. And so he wants somebody of his bloodline to take it over, and that's Mahito because I guess it's on his mother's side.
Yes. And the antagonists in the movie are basically these giant parakeets.
Yeah, it's so it's a weird choice, and they aren't even they aren't even antagonists for most of it. Like we were talking earlier about the pelicans that were eating the ghosts of people that were going to go become humans in the other world.
Yeah.
Like they were kind of victims of it. Like he ran to one of them who said that they've been stuck there for a long time and their children were forgetting how to fly, and it just kind
Uh,
of like there wasn't enough fish in the seas for them. Like this whole world is falling apart.
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the real villains are this race of sapient human-sized parakeets
Yeah.
with big bulgy budgy eyes.
Yes. Yeah. Uh, Now, did you watch the dub of this or the sub version?
I watched the sub version.
Okay, I watched the dub version. Um, the king of the parakeets was voiced by Dave Batista.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, was
Yeah.
Mark Hamill the great uncle?
Yeah.
That fits just because now he's an old man. He can do an old man voice like nobody else.
Yeah. And Christian Bale was the dad's voice.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
Not his first time doing Miyazaki movie because he
oh,
was in Howl's Moving Castle.
okay. And who else? There was somebody else.
Willem Dafoe, was he the Heron?
Oh no, Robert Pattinson was the Heron.
What?
Yeah, and it didn't sound anything like him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of a voice was he putting on? Because okay, in Demon Slayer, how they have the crows that give the message that I sound like they're cawing all the time.
Yeah,
Like,
it kind of sounded like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what they did for the sub voice too, was that sort of bird voice.
Yeah, yeah,
Wait. So you brought in Robert Pattinson, cast him as a goofy gnome character, and then had him put on a silly bird-like voice.
yeah,
This is only slightly behind the time that South Park cast George Clooney as a gay dog who only barked.
yeah,
In terms of weird animation, voice casting decisions.
yeah, yeah. But yeah. So what were we talking about before we got
Oh, well,
sidetracked?
that's right. The actual plot of the movie.
Oh, the
Yeah.
actual plot of the
So,
movie. Yeah,
so
yes,
Mahito and his mother end up in the presence of his great uncle. No. Mahito ends up in the presence of his great uncle first. And the great uncle's going, well, only somebody of my bloodline can inherit this world, and you can fix it, make it better. You just have to keep stacking these items. And it's like, what? What? I think my fundamental disconnect with this was that why would you possibly have any interest in saving this world? Like,
yeah,
like nobody
yeah,
in this world is stuck in this world per se.
yeah. And nobody seems too happy in the world either. They all seem very miserable.
Right. This world is falling apart. Also, the Heron, like, I don't quite get his motivations because he wants to get Mahito in the tower, but he also was seeming to want to eat him.
Yeah, didn't make any sense.
Like, was the Heron out to sabotage this attempt to save this world? Was he trying to get him in a position to save this world? I don't get it.
Yeah, and
Partially it's because my attention was starting to wander a bit towards the back quarter, so that I did actually go back and rewatch a couple of scenes just to make sure I understood what was going on.
well, you put more effort in than I did. I was just like Tally. I have no idea what's going on.
Uh, Now, ultimately, there are some like interesting emotional bits. Like he runs into his aunt in this other world, and she seems like she's out of it.
Yeah,
Um, and she is very unhappy with it because honestly, dude was a little shit to her. Like she invited him down, like, hey, let's talk. We should be friends. Oh, let me tell you about the tower. Thanks for the tea. Leaves without being given permission to leave.
yeah,
Just very cold to this poor pregnant woman who's not taking the pregnancy well. Uh,
yeah,
and yeah, once, yeah, of course, she's right to be rude to him.
yeah. Because yeah, he was rude to her.
uh, you have the bits with him and his mom as a kid. Like she had apparently entered the tower. I think they even said that like she had entered the tower at one point and had been gone for about a year, but showed up again with no memory of what had happened and was totally fine.
Mm, yeah,
I think that was the mom who had just vanished into the tower. Um, Also, her relationship with her time lost son is kind of fun. So that's you get some when they have to part again because she has to go back into the past as the world is collapsing around them.
yeah,
It's very sad, but heartfelt. And I guess at the end of it, he just ends up moving on with his life. I guess it's a movie about grief and loss? Question mark.
I guess. Yeah,
And I only say that I only say question mark because this movie is much more interested in the visuals, I think, than the actual story.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like it's a feely, what they like. It's like it's based on the feels and the visual spectacle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, a bit like yeah, I think it was trying to be like Your Name and like Weathering with You and movies like that, and it just kind of didn't really. It missed the mark, I think.
Yeah, it's true. So one thing's kind of interesting is that it's fairly unusual in the grand scope of Miyazaki movies to have a male protagonist like this because
Mm,
he usually has a little girl as the main character.
yeah,
Also, he seems a bit older than the usual cast member. Although I'm not 100% clear on his actual age. Like 13 minimum.
yeah. I was gonna say yeah, 13, maybe 14.
So maybe that explains kind of the different feel of the character. Um, what's all so I think from a story perspective, it kind of fell a bit flat for me just because I didn't quite understand what was going on. I think that if they had explained more clearly, oh, by the way, oh, thanks for the announcement that the critique corner, the podcast
1 hour, 1 frigging hour. Come on.
on the dot for the for the notification.
Jeez.
But now, like on a visual level, what I find funny is that Miyazaki has things that he clearly just likes animating.
Yeah.
So they just kept appearing over and over again. Like I swear, the dude. I'm not gonna be quite so crass. The man very much enjoys animating viscous liquids just for their own sake. And you know what? Like liquids are hard to animate, like just famously.
Yeah.
So it's like things like when he bashes himself in the head, the blood comes out as a thick burst.
Yeah.
Um, when his mom runs into him, there's like a scene where she makes him a piece of bread with a huge slab of butter and more jam than you can actually store on it. It's like the jam is flowing off as he's eating.
Yeah. It's all over his face. Yeah.
And there's like lots of scenes of water and just and there's just particular movements that I've seen in other movies. Like remember the opening scene where they're running on just about four legs up those stairs. I've
Yeah.
I've seen him do that a few times before.
Uh,
The king of the budgies, like with the big broad shoulders, looks like multiple of his past villains, just in silly parakeet form.
yeah. And hey, creators out. Like, good to see you.
Hey, hey. So what I would say is that like I have a lukewarm opinion of him as a creator.
Mhm.
So where other people would point at those little visual references and tropes and repeating elements and go, "Ha, that reminds me of the thing, dopamine time."
Yeah. Yeah.
I just kind of went, "Huh, okay, that he's making that choice again. Cool."
Yeah. 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 I can see that. Yeah. It's yeah. I'm kind of torn, yeah, because it is it is a visually striking movie, but at the same time, yeah, it's the story is very lacking. Um,
Which
and
is that's the review I would give most Miyazaki movies, except for the ones where he adapted an existing book, like Howl's Moving Castle.
yeah, um, but
This one was loosely based on. Um, it's loosely based on the film's Japanese title references Genzaburo Yoshino's 1937 novel of the same name, but is not an adaptation of it.
okay.
But sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that this movie won best animated film at the Oscars last year, and it beat out Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Or it was into the, or no, across, I think it was, yeah, Across the Spider-Verse, which a lot of people weren't happy about. Um,
Oh, did it? Okay.
yeah, yeah,
And I think Elemental was also up. Elemental was never going to win unless like Disney wrote so many checks.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's take that as a moment of comparison here. If I was going to compare this to Spider Verse, like if I had been on the Oscar selection committee and this was one of my two options for best animated film last year, what would I have picked? Of course, I would have wanted to pick Puss in Boots, but then I would have been informed that, oh, sorry, Puss in Boots came out in 2022, technically.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I can see where this would have gotten the nod because while Spider Verse 2 had a lot more creative blended animation styles,
yeah,
I would say that this is better as a standalone product and doesn't need a second part that may come out in 2026 if we're lucky.
yeah. Very true. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm in the position of I think I respect it more than I like it, if that makes
hmm,
sense.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see that. Yeah,
Now, if we've managed to make you interested with our spoilery, lukewarm review, it is free to view right now on Max, along with the other Ghibli movies.
yes.
But frankly, if you haven't seen the other Ghibli movies, Howl's Moving Castle is usually a big crowd pleaser. Princess Mononoke 2, Spirited Away. This is basically like a second take at Spirited Away in a sense. And that
Yeah.
one, yeah, that one I liked the main characters much more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know
Yeah.
what movie I suspect that Daniel didn't have any respect for at the end of it?
Yeah. Uh, so this movie's been kind of on my radar for a couple of years now. I've seen other YouTubers doing reviews of it. Um, and I found it on Tubi, of all places. You can find some weird stuff on Tubi.
It's
Uh,
basically a what can we get the streaming rights for $1,000 and buying lunch?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so this movie, The Demolitionist, is a mid '90s RoboCop ripoff. Um,
Now, is she the main character, or is she just a something they could put on the box to make horny teens rent it?
no, she's the main character.
Okay.
Although she doesn't really spend a whole lot of time in the suit, which is disappointing. Um, but
Interest immediately dashed. Now go ahead.
yeah, yeah. But no, so actually, let me pull up the character names real quick because they're kind of escaping me at the moment. But
I can't imagine why.
yeah,
Uh, I just sent you the IMDb page. I will be right back. Go ahead and keep going.
okay. So the the star of the movie is Nicole Eggert, who I think her best known role to date is her a stint on Baywatch. She plays Alyssa Lloyd, and she's an undercover cop inside this gang of really hardened criminals led by Mad Dog Byrne, played by Richard Grieco, who I suspected uh, his salary for this movie went straight up his nose. And so she's working undercover in his gang. The movie starts off where Mad Dog, and his brother are about to be executed for their crimes because they live in this fictional city called Metro City, which is actually Dallas, Texas. Again, another little RoboCop thing there because that's where RoboCop was filmed in Dallas, Texas. Um, and and in the city, guns are completely banned. And so then,
Wait. I just got back on. You mean to tell me that a city in Texas completely banned all guns?
yeah, apparently,
What a completely unrealistic sci-fi concept.
I know, yeah, yeah. Well, I was saying that they filmed the movie in Dallas, which just further goes to the whole RoboCop ripoff. But yeah, so Alyssa, Mad Dog's about to be executed. He and his brother, but then they manage to get out because they're a bunch of corrupt police, and so he gets away. But then they he goes back to his gang, and that's where Alyssa is. And but then she finds out that Mad Dog's planning to take out the mayor, who is played by the actress's name is Susan Tyrell. She was a very weird woman in real life.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, yeah. This movie is kind of like a who's who of B movie actors. You have like oddly enough, Bruce Abbott's in this movie. He was in another movie that I had reviewed a couple of weeks ago, Black Scorpion. Um, and You have Peter Jason's in it. He's the chief of police, corrupt chief of police. He was in a lot of Carpenter's movies, um, John Carpenter's movies, and then uh, Heather Langenkamp plays a reporter in the movie. Most people know her from Nightmare on Elm Street.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, so Mad Dog finds out that Alyssa is a cop, and then does the whole you know Murphy. Basically what happened to Murphy kind of happens to her. Not as graphic. It's not like a graphic death, but it's very similar to it. And then so then we meet. That's when Bruce Abbott's character comes in. He plays what was it, Professor Crowley, Jack Crowley, and he's developed this nanotechnology that will bring her back to life. Uh, and so that's where the whole RoboCop thing comes from, and and of course he's very um, cold to her. Like he treats her like a like a test subject and not like a person,
Hmm.
which irritates the heck out of her. Um,
Understandably.
yeah, um, and but he keeps telling her, he has to, she has to control her emotions because you know it it wears down the effects of the nanites because she has to keep getting these. She has to sit in this chair and keep getting these nanite injections in her.
Oh,
Otherwise, her body will rot and decay. And I will say the movie was directed by Robert Kurtzman. Uh, I don't believe he's related to Alex Kurtzman. At least I hope hope he isn't. Um, but he was a makeup effects artist. That's
okay.
kind of where he made his living. And and the makeup effects in this movie are really good. And so when you see her like decaying, it actually does look like she's her body's falling apart. Um, and speaking of makeup artists, Tom Savini, the great makeup effects artist from 80s movies like Friday the 13th and oh I can't think of any other ones, but he has a role in the movie, and Bruce Campbell has a cameo in this. So
Okay, so that immediately elevates the movie a bit.
yeah, yeah. He's got a kind of a funny scene in there. But and oh, and so does Reggie Bannister. For those of you who don't know Reggie Bannister, he's in the Phantasm movies. Um, but uh, but then of course, eventually, it's not even. It's about halfway through the movie when she finally gets the suit and the guns and everything, and goes full RoboCop. But and I will say, like, I was really disappointed that there weren't more like RoboCop action, like or just action scenes. I
Well, Daniel, those are expensive.
Yeah, that's probably what I yeah, that's yeah. This reeked of low budget. But and they even have like they even kind of lift scenes from RoboCop in there. Like there's a scene where they kind of quasi do the your move creep. Um and then in the scene when RoboCop gets ambushed by the cops, they even kind of have a scene like that in there where she gets ambushed by them, but she manages to easily get away. Um, and basically, the movie is just her trying to hold on to some of her humanity, even though she's got all this machine stuff in her. And it's they try to play it up for melodrama, and it kind of is just like, okay. Um,
Yeah, please move on to the next action scene.
yes, please move on to yeah. I will say the action scenes are done very well. And I like the design of her suit, and I like the guns. The guns are pretty cool.
Do they
Uh,
actually shoot big bolts of yellow energy?
no, it's like a real it's almost like an assault rifle made smaller.
Hmm.
I will say she never runs out of bullets, which is
She's making them out of nanites. Shut up.
oh yeah, yeah. Okay. But it's I mean the entire time I was watching this movie, I'm just thinking what I would do differently, which is usually not a good sign. But I mean, apart from like the action scenes, the action scenes are good. I like her suit design, but like the story is like it's a like I said, it's a RoboCop ripoff. If you want to watch a movie like that, just watch RoboCop. And you mentioned the ending at the beginning there. The ending was really dumb,
Mm.
and and it didn't make any sense either. Uh, because it didn't end the same way as RoboCop. Like, nice shooting, son. What's your name? Murphy. Didn't have that.
Mm.
Just total letdown. But,
Right, if you're gonna rip it off, go all the way.
exactly. Yeah. 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 I kind of wish part of me wants to go out and find out who owns the rights to this property so that I can take it and make a comic book out of it and make it better.
Yeah, the license for this thing would have to be super cheap.
Oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that. And
Okay. Well,
go ahead.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be a bit of a stretch to come up with a transition to the next movie. You might
Well, while you think about that, I will be right back.
okay. Well, I was gonna say you have to stretch a bit, a long stretch. It's gonna be the original, The Longest Yard. So while I wait for Daniel, let's see if we have any questions or activity over in the chat. We, in fact, do not. Okay. Well, I don't want to get too much into this since this is a shared review, but just to kind of give a brief overview of this, I had actually seen the Adam Sandler remake of this in the theaters with my dad. And I distinctly recall him saying that being kind of disappointed about this movie compared to the original. And at the time, I didn't really think much of it, much of that. But when we were looking for a classic movie to review last week, I was going through Paramount Plus and happened to see that. Sidebar: you can kind of tell the states of the various streaming wars because I was watching The Boy and the Heron on Max, and they had commercials for Paramount Plus, not advertising any of their original TV shows because those have slowed to a crawl or stopped because they just don't have the money for it right now.
Mm.
But they're advertising, Paramount Plus, it's the home of great movies. Please subscribe.
Yeah.
And I have to agree, Paramount has a long history going back, in this case, 50 years.
Mm.
So, Daniel, while you were out, I was just mentioning that I had happened to see the Adam Sandler remake of this one, and
Yeah, I have
my
too.
dad had been kind of disappointed
Hmm.
at the time, and now I get it.
Yeah, I do. I do too. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember when you first mentioned this movie, and you're like, "Oh, you want to watch this?" And I was like, "The Burt Reynolds one or the Adam Sandler one?" And you're like, "The Burt Reynolds one." Okay, yeah, let's watch that.
Yeah. The weird thing, as I was watching this movie, I kept going to myself, "Oh, that was in the Adam Sandler movie too." Like that was, from what I recall, a pretty faithful retelling of this, and
Yeah.
that's weird that you would bring in Adam Sandler and his normal crew of people to just make a straightforward remake of The Longest Yard.
Yeah, yeah, and not only that, bring Burt Reynolds in to be in the remake.
Oh, that's right, he was in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, he played he was the old guy, the coach.
You know, I know that this isn't the case, but it would be kind of hilarious if they were both in the same continuity and the events just happened to like be very extremely similar to each other.
Yeah,
Like he was the same character from the original.
yeah, that would have been awesome. Yeah,
Like, look, I had this happen to me in the '70s. Let me just guide you through it. But no, that's kind of neat. I'd actually forgotten he was in it. But
yeah.
let's see. Also, wasn't Rob Schneider the caretaker character?
That was Chris Rock.
Chris Rock. That's right. That's right. I
Yeah,
remember Rob Schneider was in it.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to remember who else was in that movie. Actually, I remember. I think Bill Romanowski was one of the guards. He's an old football player.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this actual movie
Yeah, yeah. Let's do
because it's
that. Yeah,
the better version.
yeah, yes.
So, First off, I think this is the only time I've ever seen Burt Reynolds without a mustache.
Yeah, he rarely ever went without one. I
In
think
fact, he even
the
had it at the start of the movie.
yeah, yeah. I think he didn't have it in Deliverance, which is not a movie I want to watch.
So you're just immediately going, nope, nope, j- not
No,
interested.
no,
No.
no.
Uh, so this is a so this is a classic screwball sports movie where
Mhm.
it's just the team of misfits coming together to try to win the game that they have no rights to win.
Yeah.
Because so Bert plays Paul Crew, Paul Wrecking Crew, a washed-up football player who I believe got ejected from the league for shaving points in a game.
Yes. Which I will say in football, that's not easy to do.
No, that basically implies that he knew exactly, that he was so good that he could decide the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, for those of you at home who aren't aware, shaving points is basically when you're betting in football, you aren't necessarily going, "I think the Rams are going to win this week." You're going, "I think they're going to do statistics, figure out the margin of victory is likely to be between 3 and 12 points or whatever."
Yeah.
And if you bet in the spread and you win a small amount of money. But if the result is outside of the spread and you bet out in that section of the spread that it got into, you get way more money.
Yeah.
So he was so basically he was throwing games and making sure the other guy got or the other side got enough points to beat the spread.
Right. Yeah. And I will say just real quick, point spreading is actually a lot easier to do in basketball than it is in football.
Yeah,
You see it more in basketball. Yeah.
I can imagine just because you have a lot more chances to score.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So the movie starts off where Paul Crew is with his what do you say, wife, girlfriend,
I think it was just a girlfriend.
girlfriend. Yeah. And she's very irritated with him, and they he even says to her, "I think the love has left our relationship."
With that Burt Reynolds charm.
Yeah,
It's good that that Burt Reynolds charm is there because he is objectively an awful person.
yeah,
He's physically abusive. He steals her car while drunk. He drives the car into the bay.
yeah,
He assaults the police who are trying to arrest him for this crime.
yes, yeah, and as you might expect, that's when he goes to prison.
Yes, it turns out he wasn't famous enough to get out of trouble.
Right. Yeah, but famous enough that the warden of this particular prison actually got him transferred there because his prison guards have a semi-pro football team, and he wants them to be winners, and to do that, he thinks Paul Crew, being a coach, will help that happen. But the lead prison guard on for the team, who's the quarterback, is like, "You're gonna tell him not, you don't want to do it."
Well, because otherwise it'll be physically bad for him.
Hmm.
So he goes in, says no, flirts with the secretary, and the warden was played by Eddie Albert, who he is one of the highlights of this movie because he is good at switching from being affable, good old boy type to just downright nasty,
Yeah, and
unlike like that.
oh yeah, yeah. I've actually met people like that in real life. It's
Yeah. Also, major character Ed Lauter as Captain Knauer. Not as much of a presence, but he's also it's hard to outshine the warden.
yeah. I've actually seen that. I actually saw that actor in the Schwarzenegger movie I watched a couple of weeks ago.
Hmm.
A Raw Deal. So he's obviously one of those character actors that just shows up all the time.
Yep. But so Bert refuses to join the team, and so he gets thrown on to the make work squad, where they basically transfer mud from one part of the swamp to another part of the swamp and then back again.
Yeah.
Some observations I'm going to make about this movie right away are it's kind of in the same genre of Slapshot where I can't believe they made some of these jokes in the 70s.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I'm actually kind of surprised Paramount Plus doesn't put trigger warnings on movies like this because I
I
mean
wonder
they're
if Paramount does that on any movies. Have we seen any that had that?
I've never seen it. Yeah, I did. I think Max does it on some of them, but yeah, I don't. Like 48 hours, for instance. Like
Yeah,
they were throwing the N word around all the time, and
yeah.
yeah,
This one had it a bit less, but still there.
yeah. Well, yeah. It had N word. It had bundle of sticks. Yeah.
Yeah, you had uh, f bombs, I believe.
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and yeah, yeah. I think this was in the time of um, the auteur filmmaker when when movie studios were really struggling, and they basically just told filmmakers, make whatever movie you want, just don't
Right.
spend a whole lot of money.
We don't know what the audience wants. You figure it out. Be cheap.
Yeah.
Which is probably the era we're about to run into again. I would suspect.
Oh yeah. Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, because you end up with interesting movies like this.
Yeah.
So it follows kind of a predictable pattern where it starts off he has a rough go of it with the rest of the team on
Hmm.
the work farm. Uh, he gets close to a couple of them, particularly James Hampton as the character caretaker,
Yeah.
uh, who's like the most immediately likable character in the movie.
Yeah. And then who's the other the one black guy? I can't remember his name.
Um, was his name Mawabi or was that a different one?
Let's see.
Or no, maybe it was Granville. Granville.
Granville, that's what it was. Yeah, Granville.
Yeah, yeah. Harry Caesar played him. He was also quite good.
Yeah.
I would actually say like, every character actor does what they need to for their particular role.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so uh, Burt Reynolds, Paul Crew, he eventually relents, and so sits with the warden, and he says, "Well, if you want to, he said, get them ready to go. They need to win their first game." And he said,
Right. Give him a warm up game.
"Right." Which I don't. I'm guessing the professional leagues that used to do this, where they'd play a semi-professional team. I know in college, big schools will play like smaller schools, and like for instance, like Texas would play, you know, University of Louisiana Monroe, and they beat them like 70-3. Yeah.
Right, just to build up their confidence, to help them work out the kinks against an actual opponent.
Right, and that's basically what Paul Crew recommends to the warden, and then the warden's like, "Oh, I got a good idea. Well, I'll just have you have the guards play the cons, and you put a team together." Like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a long scene of him recruiting various people who want their shot at the guards. Like, wait, we can kill the guards legally.
yeah, 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 we can actually hit them. Like, yeah, you can hit them. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you have some interesting bits, like some of the racial divides in the prison. You have Paul, who's kind of an arrogant asshole at the start of the movie,
Yeah,
but slowly warming up to these guys.
yeah, 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 and then he meets what was it? Scarborough. Yeah, Nate Scarborough, who's an old football player, and he basically brings him on to be the coach. And so yeah, he basically just gets to know everybody really well,
Right.
and
You've got like you got the old guy who's been in prison for a long time because he punched a guard.
yeah,
You've got you got the big tall guy. You got the crazy Russian karate master.
Yeah.
Uh, just a wide variety of different personality types to bounce off of,
Yeah.
and Burt is very good in this movie because, like I said, I keep calling him a jerk. He really is, and
Yeah.
they made no efforts to make you like him at the start of the movie.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Um, I wonder how much they pay. I wonder if Burt managed to like weasel out an extra 10K or something for having to shave his mustache during the. I got towards the start of the movie.
Probably. Yeah. Well, they even made a joke about it when they were shaving it off. They're like,
Yeah.
Didn't you say you paid somebody $5,000 if you shave your mustache?"
Oh, here's half. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Now, like a lot of comedies, that doesn't necessarily reward going through and spoiling the jokes. So I'm not going to spoil the jokes in the middle of the movie
Right. Yeah.
because there's just like a lot of fun scenes of the ridiculous lengths they're preparing to go out there and kill those guards.
Yeah.
But they're dressed up like just ordinary football advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gentlemen, this is a this is what we call a brass knuckle.
Yeah. Tape some plaster on there.
Right. Yeah, this is plaster of Paris. If we wrap it around your arm and it'll solidify in 15 minutes, it'll be hard as concrete.
Yeah.
just just that kind of ridiculousness.
Yeah.
So then we get to the final game, and the moral quandary that Bert finds himself in is that he's up for parole at 18 months,
Yeah.
but he's only up for parole 18 months if the warden is happy with him.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, and during this time, yeah, he's trying to he's kind of playing both sides, because he's like, all right, yeah, well, I'll I know I know we're not going to win, but don't let them know that, and he said, well, I'll give you your game and all this other stuff, but then
Then the cons start winning and winning
yes,
hard.
yeah, and so then he uh yeah, I don't want to, yeah, well, I don't want to
Well,
spoil that part of it,
we don't
yeah,
need to
but
spoil what the actual decision is, but what the warden tells him is, "You've shaved points before. I want a 21 point win at least,
yeah,
or else you aren't getting your parole."
right. Yeah, and so he at first he does that, but then
Right? Well, that's his moral quandary, right? It's like,
yeah,
do I sacrifice this game that means so much to all these people to to save my own skin? Because
right,
he has the example of the man who punched a guard and has been in prison for 30 years.
yeah,
Like, does he want to do that for the rest of his life?
right, yeah, and I think they played that off really well.
Hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, I think this is I think we both agree this is much better than the Adam Sandler version. Um,
Right? Because at the end of the day, I can believe that Burt Reynolds is a world class football coach, especially in like the pre steroid era.
yeah, well, he played football.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, he was a football player at Florida State.
did not realize. Okay, so yeah, no wonder he was so good at looking believable.
Yeah, yeah,
And you have a nice, colorful cast of characters. In fact, I feel silly for not mentioning. You had the was it Richard Keel?
Richard Keel. Yeah,
Yeah, aka
Jaws.
Jaws from Moonraker.
Yeah, yeah. His name was Samson.
Yep.
He's like, don't cut your hair.
Right. So he's just like as the big, strong guy, and you have yeah, just a fun variety of characters,
Yeah,
but they also managed to, unlike a lot of comedy movies where you don't necessarily care about the character, despite Reynolds being a complete jerk at the start of the movie, he warms up through it, and then they put him in a situation where he has an actual moral choice to make.
right.
And so it's like it's got a better character arc than a lot of dramas we've ended up seeing.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, especially recent dramas that we've seen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, if you have Paramount Plus, go give it a watch.
Yeah.
If anything we've said sounds remotely interesting, you'll probably enjoy yourself.
Yes. And as somebody who is a football fan for a long time, I can say that the football scenes are very accurate to what you would actually see in a football game. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad we could end on a super strong note because
Yeah.
Uh, and we talked a little bit earlier about the financial state of the entertainment industry now that interest rates are higher and a lot of bad bets are coming home to roost.
Mhm.
This would be the kind of the way forward: is identify actors who can play a character well and build a low budget movie around them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think we've exhausted all of our topics for tonight. Thank
Indeed.
you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because if we get to 1K subs by the end of the year, we'll watch The Acolyte. Uh,
Yes.
and ring the bell to get the notifications, and we'll see you next week. Night, everybody.
Yep. Good night, everyone.